little light go on. Well, welcome everybody. I am so pleased to be gathered with you here on this April afternoon. My name is Kim Weir, and I have the great pleasure to be a part of the team at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, and to be sort of your guide for the next little while to introduce you to the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, and particularly, but not only, our TRF Second Chances program, which is our flagship program, and it's one we're very proud of. So I'm sitting here as we begin in Saratoga Springs, New York, which is actually where we are based. I have been joined by three of my favorite friends, and these are three horses that live at our program in Ocala, Florida. So I have them in the background, not only because it's much better than like looking at my home office, but also because today my role is to speak for them and to share with you the story of the TRF and the magic of these creatures. And I'm very grateful that you've each joined us here today. So thank you for spending the time. To give you a little idea of how we're going to proceed, and this presentation essentially has two parts, and there's a little bit of a break in between. So I will encourage anyone who'd like to have questions to go ahead and put those in the chat. I will stop at a certain point and look at those, make sure I'm telling you what you want to hear. But the first part is really the overview. Who are we? What are we? What do we do? All the basic facts about this organization that is creeping up on its 40th anniversary. It's an organization I'm very proud of and honored to share the story of. The second part, we will drill right into our TRF Second Chances program, and we essentially do a behind the scenes tour of the programs all across the country. They all have a very similar structure, and they all look really different based on the environments that they're in. And then as we wrap up, we'll talk a little bit about engagement opportunities and leave you with the idea that if this moves you, the sky's the limit in terms of where we go from here. Today is not a brainstorming workshop. It is just to give you all this information that you can then think about and be in touch with, and we'll go from there. So that being the game plan, we'll just get on started. And we always start at the very beginning, which is with our mission statement. This is the mission of the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. It is simply to save thoroughbred horses who are no longer able to compete on the racetrack from possible neglect, abuse, and slaughter. And it is a sobering mission. It has been the same since we were founded in 1983. And it reminds us that we are all about the horses. We have one purpose, which is to take care of them. We do a lot of other things along the way, but our focus is on these horses, and it is our privilege to do this work. So getting a little more into the who are we, what do we, it's nice to have a plan, but who are we and what's the organization look like? We are a 501c3. We are a nonprofit organization. We are based here in Saratoga Springs, New York, which is a very horsey town, and in a big way, but also in a funny way. Like, we're a big horsey town for 2 months of the year when we have the oldest running racetrack in the United States that is about 4 blocks from my house, and it's a marvelous, magical place. So there's a lot of horses here, and there's a lot of horse people here for a very intense period of time in the year. I encourage everyone to come visit, and everyone who sits through this whole presentation has offered a glass of their choice of beverage on my porch whenever they come to town. So there you go. We were founded in 1983, a long time ago, very much sneaking up on 40 years next year. That does make us the oldest thoroughbred thoroughbred aftercare charity in the United States. And by being old, we also are largest because we've just saved the most horses over those many years. And we'll talk about the herd size today in just a moment. The focus of our work, which is sort of taking our mission statement into action, is the phrase we use is the promise of a lifetime of sanctuary. Our role is to take the horses that come to us, that need us, will live with us for the rest of their lives. And the word we really emphasize is sanctuary. And it is a beautiful word, but it also is a very powerful word, because it just means the horse, once in our care, will never ever be at risk again. And that is a big job. It is a hard job. And I have the easiest job of everybody because I just talk about it, but I have colleagues all across the country who do this, and they care for these creatures. And that means they care for them through their whole life, and through to their last day, and to make sure they have a safe and peaceful and gentle exit from this world. We focus specifically on retired thoroughbred horses, as our mission says, but we can divide that a little bit more specifically into rescued and retired horses, which are basically the two ways in which horses come to us. They either come to us as a rescue, which I think we've all got a pretty clear idea what that looks like, whether it's a cat or a dog or a horse. A rescue means the horse is in crisis and they just come. Retired is the fact that people can actually choose to put their horse in our herd if they just have nowhere else for them to go, but they want to take care of them. And so the phrases that you'll see as we keep going that are dark green and italics are things where we could talk a whole nother hour about these things, but I'll touch on them now and just know that if this is where you want to learn more, just use that chat to your heart's content. Oh, I went too far. This is the very busy slide. I have a few of these, but this is like all the stats. This is all the numbers. If you're a number person, this is one of your favorite slides. It gives you snapshot of the herd today. We are a national organization, despite we are based here in Saratoga, but we are national. We are in 9 states across the country. There are 450 of these beautiful creatures in our care, which is the largest herd in an aftercare organization's care in the country. It just, again, comes with the nature of us, honestly, being so old. We have 16 farms, as I said, 9 states, and there are 9 second chances programs, which are listed on the right. And we also do a couple the other type of farm that's not a second chances farm is a sanctuary farm, just a straight up sanctuary farm. That is much like our farm in Prospect, Kentucky, right there where Marie is. We'll talk about that farm in particular in a few minutes. And that just means horses living in a field. They're not in a second chances program. They're not teachers, but they are still living their best lives in our herd. It's very important to understand our herd as a group. They are old. We love old. We specialize in old because we keep them for the whole of their lives. They don't necessarily come to us old, but the average age of our herd is over 20 years old. I actually have a little pie chart to show you in a second that gives you the breakdown of our ages. And that's mostly because once they come to us, I mean, they don't go anywhere else. And there's also because a lot of the horses that come to us come to us old. Like that's often a time when a horse ends up in a bad spot, is when he's old and he can't do something else any longer. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. Over the many years, it's at least 5,000 horses have been saved by the TRF. We've just been doing this a long time, and we have had really large herd sizes at some points in our history. 450 is a great number now. I always like to ask people to imagine 450 horses. And I promise you that your image looks a lot more like buffalo or cows or something, because you don't see 450 horses anywhere really, other than out west in the Mustangs. So they don't all live in one place. Our herd lives in those 16 farms in 9 states. We are decentralized. And the last thing I'll point out on this is that we are very proudly an industry accredited charity. The industry organization that is paramount to us is called the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, TAA. We love acronyms, and they almost all have T's in them when you're in the thoroughbred world. That organization does a huge amount of important work. The 3 key things are: they accredit us, they check to make sure we are taking good care of these horses, they monitor us to make sure that we keep taking good care of these horses, and they also pass through funding to us from the major industry players, the racetracks, the sales companies, the breeding farms, all kinds of folks. And then last but not least, just for those who are finance oriented, just to understand the size of the organization, where we operate with about a 2.5 million budget to take care of those 450 horses. So that is the busy slide. I promise for our friends who want horse pictures, there will be more coming soon. We will just touch lightly on that. We are very proud of our accreditations. The TAA is right there in the middle. We also, on the left, that is what's known as Guide Star. They seem to be rebranding as Candid, but we have a platinum rating there. And on the right is the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. That's a newer accreditation for us, but one we're very proud of, because it is, as its name indicates, it is a global organization that does animal sanctuaries of all animals. So we are in brethren with people who take care of rhinoceros and alligators and parrots and in Africa and Australia, but we all share the idea of taking care of an animal for its whole life. And it's a unique kind of work. So what we do, and I mentioned this a little earlier, but let me get into the details of what do we do, which horses do we serve? Because there's a lot of horses in the world, and we actually love them all. All of us love all of them, but we take care of these specific horses. That's how you kind of can't boil the ocean. You have to do your job. And our job is to take care of these thoroughbred racehorses. They are all registered thoroughbreds. It is our single breed. They all have a race record, which just means they have gotten in the starting gate and presumably that gate opened and they left it. we laughingly say that there are, but with love, that some of our horses have run one race. Some of our horses may not have even decided to finish that race, but they just have to have raced. And that's because in the racing world, there are a whole lot of horses that go through training and don't ever quite make it to the races. And that would make our universe a little too big. Sometimes it's hard, but it is, you just have to have one race. We take mares and geldings. We do not take stallions, and that can lead into a whole nother conversation. We have a cousin organization that's very beloved to us and the world called Old Friends, and they were built around taking stallions. We love that. It's a whole story connecting the two organizations, but they do that. We do this. When you're trying to do scale, which is what we've always been trying to do, it's hard to do stallions because they have to live by themselves. They also have to be pasture sound, which means they can live like these three behind me and all of the horses in our herds, and they live very naturally. They don't come in every day. They live in fields. They have a run-in shed. It's horses being horses, and they have to be able to do that. They can't be hothouse flowers, even if by breeding they are hothouse flowers. They eventually have to learn how to be a horse and to live outside and to deal with weather and flies and things that they may not love, but they can do it. The other key to pasture sound, though, is that we have learned over time, thankfully, been able to really narrow our focus to those specific horses that cannot be ridden or pursue an athletic career, which we love because these are the most vulnerable. These are the at-risk horses. It may be that they finished their racing career with that injury that made them not rideable, and that happens. It's actually more and more common now that we are having horses come to us that were able to do something else. They went and did a polo pony, they were a police horse, they were a hunter jumper, but they aged out of that. And once again, if they raced and they're a thoroughbred, they are still qualified for us. So we take a lot of horses later in their life because that's when they get, some would say not useful. We would never say that. So we take them at any age. And just to finish that, as I mentioned earlier, they come to us in two paths: responsible retirement, where someone can retire their horse to us, and that horse will come with the funds that will cover him or her for their life, because they just have nowhere else to go. We can do that. But those horses are coming with the funds, so we're not raising money for people who don't need us to do that. And then rescue is the horses that are in trouble, and there's any infinite number of things that happen where that horse just needs a place to be. And that's what we're here to do. Okay, I do have a lot of slides, a lot of words on them, but I'm not going to read all this one to you, I promise. I'll just say that there is an option for adoption out of the TRF, which almost sounds contradictory to the fact that I've just told you we do sanctuary and they live with us for their whole lives. They are in our care for their whole lives. But occasionally, and it's kind of occasionally, folks will say, hey, I have an old horse at home who's lonely. I need a companion. We are your answer to that problem. If that is you, we are ready for you, because our horses are herd animals for sure. And they love a buddy or a couple, sort of like potato chips. You can't just have one. So we adopt out for companion adoption on a very cautious basis. We have to make sure it's the right situation. But when that happens, it's a really wonderful thing, because a horse that's adopted out of our herd gives us a spot where we can take another one. So our little slogan is adopt one, save two. But it's also very important to understand that those horses that are adopted out aren't ever leaving our herd, really. They are always welcome back, and our adoptive families know that, or made to fully understand that if they ever need to, they can turn them back. And it happens like very regularly, and that's great. We love that. So it is something to know about us, is that is a possibility. This is that age slide I mentioned, so at least getting graphical, if not photos. Sorry for all the it gets horsier as we go, but I just love this slide, and it doesn't change. The only thing that changes about this slide is the big green part gets bigger. So 72% of our herd are between the ages of 20 and 29. So people who think that like a 12-year-old is old, not in our world. We have very few. 2% of the herd is in that young age, and let's be clear, none of them are one, because they can't have raced at one. So I'll update that slide at some point. And look at that little group, our 2%ers, our real seniors. We aren't trying to keep them this long, but we are proud of the fact that when you take care of a horse and let a horse be a horse, they're going to live a long time. And we end up having horses into their 30s, like very regularly. Not all of them, but boy, it amazes me. And we just love them when they're old. This is a new slide, and this is from my friend Monica, who I knew I promised you this was coming, but we actually just did this earlier this year because I have this picture of these grays behind me, and I think that's crazy. We have so few grays. We just have all these grays in Ocala, which is where these guys live. So that is our herd by color. For those of you who just want to mix it up a little bit, the thoroughbred tends to be a dark bay and brown kind of horse. But our herd, and so if you add up dark bay, brown, and bay, that is 71% of the herd. And that sounds very true to me as someone who's visited basically all of our farms. Black is like nearly impossible. But the fact that we have 5% gray, I did not know this until I had my colleague Chelsea pull this together. So that I just find that fun. Us horse people find this stuff entertaining. And then we get into the where are they? We've said that there are two types of farms. There's the second chances farms and there's the sanctuary farms. So this kind of gives you if you divided all the herd into those two types of farms, this is what it looks like. It's kind of like 1/3, 2/3 ish. So 1/3 of the herd live in the dark green, which are the TRF second chances programs, and the lighter green live in our sanctuary farms. So the list on the left is of our sanctuary farms. And that is where I point out for Miss Marie, there's Chestnut Hall right at the top. Chestnut Hall is very special. I think it's hopefully the next slide I will show. Nope. There it is. I'll go back. Chestnut Hall is very special because I do want everyone to know, look, and there's a picture of a horse. I just had to get to a picture of a horse. You'd suffered with me and all my words for long enough. This is very special. It's 1 year old. We opened this farm in March of 2021, and it looks just like that. It's crazy beautiful. It is a gift that was given to us by a benefactor who acquired this land. It's 30 acres in Prospect, Kentucky, right on beautiful Route 42. And he gave us this farm with sort of 3 goals. He said, I want you to put thoroughbred horses there so that the city of Louisville, which is famous for racehorses, can actually go meet some racehorses. He wanted that to be the first goal. He wanted us to educate people about thoroughbred aftercare and the fact that these horses can live very wonderful lives after their racing careers are done. It takes a lot of people doing a lot of things, but it's possible. So let's talk about that. And then he wanted us to use it to raise money for us. I mean, he wanted whatever charity he came to do those 3 things. So we're very grateful and we are having a great time doing it. We've had over 1,000 visitors to this farm since they arrived last March. We opened for tours in May of last year, and you can book a tour to visit Chestnut Hall right now, and there's the website, but visithorseCountry.com is our partner that manages all the tour bookings. And we also use this beautiful farmhouse that you see there for events. So it is a very special sanctuary farm. For the horses, they're doing exactly what the horses do at all the other sanctuary farms, but the difference is they have a lot more visitors. So I was going to go back to, this is a slide I skipped over, and it's probably getting close to sort of the end of this overview first part of the presentation. This is just our map of where the horses live. And especially as I look at my friends on the West Coast, see, you are represented, but it's one little group out there. So we are, yes, let's be clear, we're East Coast heavy. We were founded in New York. So we have 2 programs in New York. We go all the way down to Florida, where we have 2 programs in Florida, a whole bunch there in the mid-Atlantic, one in the Midwest, which is in Illinois. That's sort of, right below the Great Lakes, and then all the way out to California. We are very proud to have a program out in Coalinga, California, but we are national, and that's what it looks like. So as we take a brief thread, because I think I've just feel like I've talked to you an awful lot there, and it is 6. I'm going to do a quick stop, catch my breath, take a drink of water. Even though I'm recording, I'm going to play it by ear. I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second because I think I can just pop right back in here. And I'd love to see you all. Yes, hi, I want to see you all. And I want to look at the chat and see if there's any questions that I need to address. Yeah, thank you for using the chat. Thank you for that good question. And Angela, that is an awesome question about whether there's one color that's more adoptable than the other. I do not think there is. I mean, because here's what I have found about most horse people, and I start with myself, is that most of us have some color we love. So the most popular color is the color that person loves most. Like I am a chestnut with a big white blaze. That is my kryptonite. I somehow only rode chestnuts like my whole riding career. So I would always be the one who's like, well, if you had a choice, I'd take a chestnut. But it's also the one that looks you in the eye and chooses you. And that's the other answer, is that is certainly how it happens with all of us and these creatures, is they're in charge. Any questions about anything I've done so far before I pop back in? Are you with me? I know it was a lot of wordiness, but thanks for bearing with me. It's all good? Good. Okay. I'm going to reshare it and keep on trucking. So now we get into the kind of our origin story, as I guess that's what they say, like in the Marvel movies and stuff, is how did we get to this part of what we do? Oh dear, what did we do? What are we doing? That's not what I want to do. I'm going to stop sharing. This is what happens when I got all crazy and decided to leave. Right there. Share. Boom. Click to exit full screen. You guys can't see anything. Oh, it's coming. I think it's coming. Tell me. Oh, yay. All right. Then we're just going to go back to view, slideshow. Perfect. All right. Give me a thumbs up, Ms. Andrea, if you can see my slide again. Is it back? Excellent. Okay. Well, why is it doing that? All right. Sorry. That's when I love that I've recorded, because these little glitches will just make it so fun. Click to exit. Come back a little time. All right. One more time. It'll work. Slideshow. All right. Andrea, you can still see it? Yep. All right. Go forward and don't do that. Yay. So this is where we get to tell a little history, a little story, a little history lesson. I'm a history buff, and I love this story. I love this story for a whole bunch of reasons, especially when I tell new friends like we are today about our founder, because this is what we all are capable of. No pressure, but this is what this story is to me. Is this woman whose name was Monique Kohler, Manhattan advertising executive, read a magazine article one day in the 80s, and it was in Newsday magazine, doesn't even exist anymore as a publication, and it was about retired racehorses, and it was terrible. And I hate to say it, but this same article is being written right now as we speak, because we are not done with this work. And so she read this article and it moved her, which we've all been right now, especially with social media. We see millions of images and millions of things that move us, and it's a little bit exhausting. But the difference is that she decided to do something. And this is what I love most about her. And I look at my friend Ansley on this phone call, and she's been my own Monique Kohler. She just took action the other day as a volunteer. But what Monique Kohler did is she said, I cannot stand, this cannot be. We've just had the greatest decade of thoroughbred racing in our history in the 70s with all those Triple Crown winners and Secretariat, and we cannot let these horses live like this. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to go across the river to Belmont, and I'm going to start talking to people, and we're going to save the horses. And she started doing it. She started raising money. I love that the first thing she did to start asking for money, because that's actually what I do with most of the rest of my time when I'm not getting to do presentations like this. And she was fearless. She just talked to everyone. And with that, she talked the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation into existence in 1983. That was just, we were the first, as I said earlier. It was a noble mission with the mission statement that you heard. And she got the thing off the ground. In 2009, she was in fact awarded the Eclipse Award, which is sort of the Academy Awards of the thoroughbred industry. And it was technically for having founded the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, but quite truly what she did is create a movement. She started the thoroughbred aftercare industry, and that is what has lasted her legacy. We hope that we are maintaining her legacy, but the fact that there's so many of us who do this now is the best testament. So this is her. I've heard, some have said she was a bombshell, but she was certainly a vibrant woman. And this is actually at our very first farm. So this is at our farm in Wallkill, New York. She is in that picture, and I'm going to see what my little slide does next. Yeah, so I'll go back to the pictures are more fun than me and all those bullet points. So this is Monique with a gentleman who made a huge impact. And this is another part of this story that I love to tell, is that Monique was notoriously, infamously fearless about who she talked to. And she was running around Saratoga, where I live now, which is our big summer racing community. And I like to say she was on a porch at a cocktail party saying, we're going to save the horses. You need to get out your checkbook and we're going to save the horses. And somebody said to her, well, that is a great idea. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Where are you going to put them? And I have no idea what she said. And I never want to know what she said, because that will ruin my story. I'm pretty sure she said something like, that's a great question. I'll get back to you, because that's like my favorite line. But what happened next was that somehow or another, she was connected to this man in this picture, whose name was Howard Nolan. He was a New York State senator at the time. He was also a thoroughbred breeder and a fan, and very much a part of the racing community. And, he would have been the kind of guy who would have been at this cocktail party if that's where this all happened. And I'm sure she's like, good, I'll go talk to him. Well, the first thing he said to her was, well, here's the thing. I'm a state senator, and I happen to sit on the committee that oversees the correctional department for New York State. And I'm sure she was in her head doing, as I often do, like, oh my, where are we going here? What does that have to do with me, these horses? You're talking about prisons, right? And he said, yes, I'm talking about prisons. I'm talking about the Wallkill Correctional Facility in Wallkill, New York. And here's why I'm bringing this up, because they've just purchased a farm. And they only purchased it because they need some buffer land between their existing prison, which is a very old prison built in the 30s, and this new facility that they're building called Shawangunk. And they have this farm. It's an old dairy farm. And he said, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but maybe you could talk to them and you could put some horses there. And that, my friends, is what happened. So how crazy as it seems to me, proving that anything is possible, in 1983, the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, this teeny little nonprofit that was nothing but a woman talking everybody's head off, raising money, signed a contract with the New York Department of Corrections to develop a vocational program. And that would be based on horses living at that farm. The first horse arrived at that farm in August of 1984, and there he is. His name was Promised Road, and he was a sweet gelding. He was a bay, so we began with bays, and we've continued doubling down on bays ever since. And this is him at the farm with two of the inmates from Wallkill, right away. And of course, you cannot make things like this up. I may have done some poetic license with the story of the cocktail party, although the facts are true that it was Monique and Howard Nolan and the prison and the farm. But you cannot make up a name like this. Promised Road was his actual name, and he was the classic war horse. He'd run I used to have his numbers in front of me, but he ran, like 60 times. He won like $16,000. He was just a blue collar racehorse who was lucky enough to finish his career in like 1983 and to be on the list to get off that van first. So that same program has been operating at Wallkill in this rather beautiful place for almost 40 years. And that's what it looks like, friends. It is beautiful. That's the Shawangunk Ridge that you're looking at. You're looking due west in this picture. The little stone house is actually on the historic register, and sometimes the rainbow even lands right at the end of the farm. We did not Photoshop that. That is just a day at the farm. It is a beautiful place. And for almost 40 years, our horses have been living their best lives and teaching men how to be better people and to have skills when they leave incarcerated life. So that is how we started. And the reason it works is because it works for both the TRF and the correctional partner. And this is a quote from one of our wardens at Blackburn. And she just says it like it is. It's a mutually beneficial program. The offenders who are working in the program and the thoroughbreds. The horses are well cared for, and they have an opportunity to live out their remaining years in a stable, nurturing environment where the offenders learn patience, empathy, trust, responsibility, and valuable skills that assist them in securing employment. And the prisons only have us there because of that second sentence. Like, they're not there to take care of horses. They're not in the business of rescuing horses. They're in the business of giving people opportunities to have better lives when they leave. And that's what our horses do. So it is, this is what it looks like at Wallkill. This is, these are pasture sound horses being fed by a man who did not know anything about horses until he found himself at our farm. And that is how we began our journey. So this is the part where I said I would take a quick break. And so I'm going to riskily take my stop share again and just look at everybody and say hello. That's the big backstory of this organization. The next part, we're going to get into the actual 9 second chances programs. So any questions? Anybody feeling like they're still with me, are able to listen a little bit longer? Excellent. Well, thank you for being interested, and we will continue. And we'll see if I go right back to the screen without any hiccups this time. All right, share, boom. Yay. All right, yes, I have to take a moment to say this is Kim's corny humor, but I like to think of our TRF Second Chances program as the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup of thoroughbred aftercare organizations, because if you're old enough to remember the old commercials where there was a guy walking down the street with a chocolate bar and a guy walking down the street with a jar of peanut butter, and they bumped into each other, and all of a sudden the thing that came out was so much better. That's prisons and retired racehorses. We would never have thought we would be together. You put us together and it's a magical thing, and it's better for both of us. So it's also because it's like intermission. And so there's your little snack. So we dive into the second part of the presentation, talk about this program, like dig in a little bit. As we said with Amy Roby's earlier quote, it's a mutually beneficial program. So there's a benefit to the humans, which are in vocational training and life lessons, and there's a benefit to the horses because they're safe and they can live out their days in sanctuary, being well cared for. Those two things are always true, but it's very flexible because we're working in 9 different states with. Well, now we're in 9 different states, and we'll get back to the list. There's 2 programs in New York and 2 in Florida, but like every single one of the programs is a little bit different in the ways that you're about to see. And that's what I love about it, because the horses are the same and the prisons are very different. That's what happens. So when you think about a partnership, it's all about us each focusing on our priority. From the TRF, we only have that one mission statement. There's not, just to be clear, there's nothing about people in our mission statement. So our only priority is the welfare of the horses. So when we are in these programs and in these partnerships, we focus all of our energy on the horses. We own the horses, they're our horses. And we as a charity raise every dollar required to care for them. And that is all of their hay, all of their feed, all of their vet bills, their farrier bills, all their supplies. And we provide support to the farm manager who looks after them. So as a charity, when you're out there, as my friends Ainsley and Andrea, maybe sitting at a table in a couple of weeks talking to people, we only raise money for these horses. But the great thing about this partnership is that the correctional partner, whose focus is on the reformation, the rehabilitation of the humans, they provide us with these 3 incredibly valuable resources, which are the things that they have in their wheelhouse. Land is the key thing. Horses and land go hand in hand, and only with their land are we able to have this program. It's how it all started with Monique and Howard Nolan was, hey, I think we have some land. So the land is provided for our horses to live on at no cost, and that makes a powerful impact financially. And it also makes a big difference on how many horses we keep at each different prison. So the land is available to us at no cost. The second thing they do, all of these things are equally important, is they also must hire our farm manager, because that person is the instructor. He or she is the one not only caring for the horses and the farm, which is no small task, but he or she is also teaching the men, the women, and the juveniles who are in these programs. And so they are, I like to say with great love that we have a herd of 450 horses and 9 unicorns at the TRF, because the unicorns are the humans that can do all of that. And they do it every day in a very unusual work environment. And the last thing that is provided through this partnership is the labor. And let's face it, these horses do nothing but create work. They find ways to hurt themselves. They need to be fed all the time. Their water, we love them, but they are hard work. And the labor is provided by the men and women and juveniles who are in these programs. So that is not to ever be underscored, that that's a really valuable resource to help us take care of so many horses. So now we're going to get into the fun. It's all hopefully all fun, but this is like the really fun part. Now we're going to go on a little tour. And this is starting at Wallkill at our very first program. Every program, I'm going to give you the same data just to kind of do the compare contrast. There are currently 32 horses at our farm at Wallkill. An average, there were 18 men in the program over the course of 2021. You have to imagine with me that the last 2 years have been weird and challenging, and we didn't have quite as many inmates in all of the programs, but nonetheless, we were thrilled that 18 men were able to work at the farm over the last year. And there's 8 currently in the program there. I was just there 2 weeks ago. It's about 90 acres. It is the kind of farm where, as you saw, it doesn't look like the one that Miss Andrea has been to. It does not look like a farm inside a prison. It is not actually a farm inside a prison. It is a farm next to a prison on corrections land. So the horses are outside the facility perimeter, and that's not uncommon. As I said earlier, this started in '84 when our Promised Road arrives, and we do use our curriculum here called Groom Elite, which I can talk about later. I always like to show the budget for each of these programs. I will not, do that all the time, but just if you want to do the reference, the easy thing to do is like divide that number by 32, and you start getting an idea of our per horse cost. And it is across the board incredibly efficient because of all those valuable assets that the prisons provide for us. But this is Kelsey. Kelsey Cover is our farm manager at Wallkill. She's awesome, and she loves cats, and all of our farms have cats because cats and horses also go together. These are a few photos of the men in the program. This picture on the left was the last VIP visit that I took to Wallkill in November 2019. It includes on the left my dad, who is a huge supporter of the TRF. And also to his right is Ramon Dominguez, who is a Hall of Fame jockey and tremendous ambassador for our program. And Rick Schosberg, who's a tremendous trainer and also huge aftercare advocate, and my other friends on the left. But one day, and some of you on this call are going to join me, we're going to get these VIP visits going again. And I'm hopeful that in May, we'll have our next VIP visit to Wallkill. Couple of pictures of, we do have a gray. We have at least one gray at Wallkill. This is my teddy bear. He's a sweetie. He was with us in Saratoga last summer. And then I have to say, I can't tell you how much I love this picture of this big man with this sleeping cat in his lap. And these are the things that happen when you put humans and animals together. So we're going to jump from Wallkill to our youngest program when I first built this presentation. And this is the one that Andrea is grinning ear to ear about because she has been to this program. And this is our program in my home state of California, the Pleasant Valley State Prison. This day was a big day, so I'm grinning like I can't grin big enough because this was our ribbon cutting day out in October 2019 when we launched this program. And Heidi Richards, you're looking at a unicorn. If you want to know what a unicorn looks like, the woman on the left is a unicorn because she single-handedly brought this program to life. If you could birth an entire program, that is what she did while being a correctional officer at the prison, which is not the normal story. She's not normal in any way. She's just spectacular. So this program is really unique. And again, Andrea is nodding and nodding because she's seen it. This is a program that is small because it's California. And let's be clear, land, there is a lot of land, but it's tricky. And in this case, the land that these horses live on is smack dab in the middle of the yard of the prison. So every TV show you've ever watched with a prison where the guys like work out and run in a circle, like our horses are more or less in the middle of that circle. It's amazing. But it's not very big. So we don't have a lot of horses there. We actually have room for 5, but with COVID, we're down to 3 right now, and we'll be back to 5. Meanwhile, we have a lot of guys. We had 30 men go through that program in 2021. And so talk about the most babied horses in our whole herd. You got 30 guys on 3 horses. There's some happy, clean, shiny, beloved horses. They're also learning farrier skills at this program. And we are super proud of this program. And it's just been, it was a big pilot for us when we launched it, for not just being in California, but the fact that it's actually a partnership with West Hills College is really a unique part. So the guys are getting 2 semesters of college credit while they're in the program. And we're thrilled that the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation has just actually done a grant to pay for them to pay for California Corrections to pay for us to continue for another 2 years. And we love this program. It is like, this is what it looks like. Because like, if you look on the picture on the right, this is not how they normally look. Like there's not usually a horse and razor wire right next to each other, but that's how it is in California. They're not close. They won't hurt themselves, but it's literally inside the yard. And this was all on our opening day. And I think this is Slicey on the left. So it's very unique to put Wallkill and Pleasant Valley right next to each other. And then we're going to go different. We're going to go third program is the program in South Carolina. And this is at Wateree River Correctional Institution. This program, I will say, is, you're going to see the land in a second. We love this program. It's been there since 2007. It has had the longest pause due to COVID and other sort of oversight issues at the prison. The horses are happy, but this is our one program that today, April 2022, it's a little bit more like a sanctuary farm that happens to be at a prison because there's not as many inmates. They're having some real difficulty getting inmates back out. It'll change. These things just sort of take time, but there are 13 horses that live there. There were, again, just 4 men kind of coming through the program last year, but there is a farm manager who takes care of these horses, and they have a lot of land. And it is a lovely place to be a horse because it's very mild, like it's big open pastures, and it is very pretty. This is actually the one Second Chances program I haven't visited yet, but I do love these pictures in it. And that's where you get this idea that it's not quite inside the yard like Pleasant Valley was, but it's also not quite like a farm somewhere else like Wallkill is. So I can't wait to see this in person, but it's there. Then we're going to come to Maryland as we continue through our tour. Maryland is a beautiful farm. It's where I've spent a huge amount of time. It's in Sykesville, Maryland, and it's also small because it's a small acreage. It's only 15 acres, and we tend to use a 2 acre per horse rule of thumb. That's not imposed upon us, but that's what we have found works really well in terms of pasture maintenance and them not kicking each other and breaking the fences, and just like it's the right balance. And so we use that, and that's what limits us to 6 very, very happy horses at the program in Sykesville. You will note that it says 0 men in 2021, and this one was completely shut down for basically 2 years. Just they could not, with all the constraints that you can imagine in prisons of getting, this farm is not inside the perimeter, so they have to drive out like a half mile, but they just couldn't do it. And so the good news is that we have those sanctuary farms that I spoke about earlier. So the horses at Sykesville just went and hung out in Front Royal, Virginia at a very beautiful farm for 2 years. And they came back in January. So as much as 0 in 2021, you see 6 in 2022, we are back in business in Sykesville, and I will be there on April 29th. And I am so excited. This fabulous little picture on the right is Chelsea Truesdale. She's our brand new farm manager. She just started in January. And these are her horses and her guys. These pictures predate her, but it is just give you some indication of the different look of that farm. It has a nice paddock where the guys can do a lot of horse handling. And these were the VIP days that I used to host, and we'll soon host again in Sykesville. It's a beautiful barn on the right. It's actually one of the few barns that was built specifically for our program. It's over 10 years old now, and it's a huge barn with just 6 stalls, like a great classroom, and it's a really cool place. Continuing on our tour, we're now going to make our stop in the Midwest. I have more recently been to this program. It's actually about a year ago that I drove from Saratoga to Louisville, and then I drove from Louisville to Vandalia, Illinois, and I went and met Miss Kelly Lean. She had just started. That is her cool kind of action shot of her barrel racing. And she has 33 horses. She had 27 men in 2021, which is great because, again, you can tell from some of these numbers, not all the programs could keep going, but she sure did. And it's got 65 acres, and it's our Midwestern stake in the ground. And it is a really neat program that but I'm going to go back. I didn't mean to go so quickly over that one, but because Illinois, it's just great to have one in the Midwest. There's a lot of horses in the Midwest, and there are a lot of smaller racetracks. So, every one of them, we could get into the whole employment afterwards, which is a whole big conversation. But we do find that the guys who leave our Illinois program, third to Lexington and Ocala, which are these horsey centers, the guys coming out of this program in Illinois are, more or less snapped right up, because there's a whole lot of horse programs, and they have had the Groom Elite program there for a while. I've lost track of where we are. I think we're maybe getting close to maybe 3 left. This is Blackburn that we're going to jump to now, which is our program in Lexington, Kentucky. This was our second chances program. We celebrated its 20th anniversary in 2019. It's a farm I visit a lot. It's one that my friend Andrea on this call has been to. And this is a program that has had horses so long that our horses are in their logo as a prison. Like, that is how they identify. We're the horse prison. And I love that. I have a coin from there. But it is a fantastic place because it's the most accessible of all the programs. It is right on Route 64, Highway 64 in Lexington. So it has the most traffic driving by it. And of course, when you're in Lexington, you drive by lots of farms and pastures full of horses. This is the one I'm always talking to people saying, you've driven by it, but you didn't know that those horses were actually at a prison facility. So it's a big farm. It's 100 acres. And it is actually our lowest security. Like, it's pre-release and it's minimum security. All of our farms are medium security and less, because it is vocational. Let's keep coming back to that. They're learning skills that mean that when the guys, gals, and juveniles leave, the skills they've learned are going to make them employable. So we don't have folks who are going to be in there for life. You just unfortunately don't do vocational programs for those individuals. But in 2019, we were actually able, this was of course a world gone by, we were able to have a horse show at the prison to celebrate the 20th anniversary. We had 140 people come in and watch the guys show off all their knowledge and experience with the horses. It was like so all those people, it was such a spectacular day. And on the right there is the ultimate cowboy of all the unicorns. His name is Tim Moore, and they're all amazing, and he is a superstar. He doesn't particularly like to be put in front of the microphone, but it's a real treat to listen to him, because between the cowboy hat and the glasses, and the fact that he says one word for every 10 that I say, he is a horseman through and through, and has just done a great job at this program. There we were. That was our whole fabulous day in 2019. So this is a really wonderful program. And as we come down the home stretch, I think we are getting to our Florida part, and this is our third oldest program in Ocala, Florida. 50 horses, another big farm, another 100-acre farm. And I like to tease John Evans here in this picture as our farm manager, that he and Tim Moore are brothers from another mother. They've actually not met each other yet, but they are the same person. They are just amazing human beings, and we're so lucky to have them. John has actually been at the program in Ocala for nearly 17 years. This program, they're all special, and I don't ever pick between them, but this is our only women's program. And we did celebrate its 20th anniversary last year with a live stream that was wonderful, because the women at this program are so in touch with their words and their ability to tell the story. And we were able to capture that on video. So these things are all available as resources. I think I have an email. It's been so long since I did this presentation, but I have an email full of links that I'll send to all of you who've tuned in today, if you want to see more and have it be a little more interactive. So this is another one of the medium security. Ocala is very, very horsey. So these women are getting out of this program, and they're getting great jobs in the horse industry. And it's a beautiful farm with the live oak trees. And it is actually, just to give you this picture, we love, the women in all of our programs. They don't just take care of horses. They learn how to fix fences, drive tractors, trim hooves. And so watching the girls drive the gator is a great view. And this is also interesting because this program is 100 acres. It is surrounded on all sides by other correctional facilities. So it's not inside one, but it is everywhere you look. There's some kind of facility. That's actually the women's it's that building behind the girls there is actually where all women who are incarcerated, they all go to that facility, and from there they are sent out to wherever they're going to serve their time. So it's a big facility. And this is one of our most famous horses. His name is Forbidden Apple, and so horse racing fans can look him up. But he's there. He is kind of the man at this farm, and he's there with one of our great board members, Paul Saylor, there on the left. And then I love these horses, and these are. I can do pictures for days, but I will keep us going so that as we get close to 6:30, we at least get you through everything before I stop talking at you. This program was, when I did this presentation a bunch of times in 2020, this was the new one. But now we have something else that follows this slide. This is our second newest program. It is our second program in Ocala. It is the program at the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. We call it TRF CSI Ocala, which is very special in that it is, for the first time in our whole history, a program where our partner in corrections is working with young youths under the age of 18. They do not have a felony record. Our horses are being given the chance to literally, truly, profoundly change the trajectory of these young men's lives. And the woman who makes it happen, the unicorn in chief, is to my right in this picture, and that is Velvet Salisbury. And she is just a joy, and she loves her work, and she's changing lives every single day. Like while we're doing this today, she's there in Ocala changing lives of these young men. And that program is, again, it launched in January 2021 in the middle of the pandemic, and has been doing great work. It's a little harder to do pictures of the young men because they're juniors and minors. We don't take pictures of them, but these are some of my favorite pictures from when we launched the program, because we also could not use the work of the juveniles to build the barn. So you know who did it? You can see who did it. The women of Lowell, which is right next door. It's the same piece of land. It's owned by different parties, but the women of Lowell literally built the barn for the juvenile program. And I was there as they were doing it. They put in the water lines, they put in the fence. If you look at this picture on the left of the big pole barn, the Lowell barn is up there on the hill. So they're literally adjacent to each other. And watching, when we did the ribbon cutting, which I have a picture of here in a second, this ribbon cutting, which was back in January 2021, of course, the women couldn't come, but they were over to the far right of this picture. Like if you think about one more fence, they were sitting in the hay wagon, like watching this ribbon cutting. They were there. They just weren't actually physically there. And we were able to thank them and applaud for them, and they could join us. It was a very special day. And there are 3 horses that are living there being looked after by Velvet and the boys at this program. It's just very exciting for us to have this, the first of we hope many juvenile programs, because we just know that horses change lives. So fortunately, we have one sort of last slide before we say the thank yous, and I stop sharing my screen again. And that is that I don't have any pictures yet, especially as I look at my friend there in Attica in the Wyoming County area. We've announced our 9th program, which is our 2nd program in New York. It is in Wyoming County. It's Wyoming County Correctional Facility in Attica, New York. I'll get that updated. It will have, when it's at sort of full capacity, 25 horses on 50 acres. But its timeline is early fall 2022, which is now. This year, this is happening as we sit on this Zoom call. Fences are being put in, the fields are being seeded. It's happening. And we have an amazing new farm manager who's already on board and working with her inmates to get that up and running. So the next time I do this presentation, there'll be pictures of our new program, our 9th program in New York. I am going to talk about this while also sharing my screen. We're going to talk a little bit about what you can do from here. But I don't want to stop before saying a big thank you. That's my last slide. I want to show you all before I stop sharing my screen, to say thank you for sharing your time, hearing all this. I'm going to see where we go from here. I just want to say, anything that moved you, take it with you into the world and tell someone else. That is the single most impactful thing you can do after listening to all of this, is just tell someone else. And I'm grateful. So I'm going to also stop my recording and thank everyone for watching. So let me just do that first, and remember how to do that. Stop